But I feel like, especially like nowadays in school and stuff, it's like if you do not fit in, it's like bad. Like,
how do you find like those good friends? What should you look to find in those people to know if they're good for you or not?
They have to think in a certain way, talk in a certain way, dress in a certain way, or even sometimes have certain ideas to fit the mainstream. If they deviate from that, then they're ridiculed, mocked, or being viewed as like they're insignificant.
welcome everyone to the first ever episode of the Teen Talk podcast. My name is Philo, and I'm joined today with
Ravina Zakari, and we are honored to be joined with Abuna Daniel, the priest at St. Barbara Coptic Orthodox Church in Franklin, Tennessee. Thank you so much for being with us.
So our topic today is peer pressure. Abuna, please give us a brief overview of peer pressure.
Sure. So peer pressure is something that all the youth feel everywhere. It's a challenge, the pressure that middle schoolers, high schoolers, college age, and even beyond feel that they have to conform, they have to fit in, they have to think in a certain way, talk in a certain way, dress in a certain way, or even sometimes have certain ideas to fit the mainstream. If they deviate from that, then they're ridiculed, mocked, or being viewed as like they're insignificant. And this is a pressure that our youth feel outside the church when they go to the real world in school or work. This is a constant pressure they feel to conform. Sometimes the peer pressure could be positive or negative. The one we're talking about outside is negative. There could be a positive peer pressure inside the church. It's the pressure to do the good thing. Let's go and do the tasbah, let's go pray, let's attend the liturgy, let's come early. It's not really pressure in that sense, but it's more of encouragement, but it's a positive way to view it. So that's really the concept.
All right. Thank you, Abuna. We're going to move on to our next segment of Bible verses. Our first verse is Proverbs 1:10. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. So how does this verse apply to our topic, peer pressure?
Exactly. So this is the idea: if sinners entice you, if sinners pressure you or invite you to do sin, run away. Don't do it. Don't consent. Don't be part of it. And the Bible is teaching us to expect peer pressure everywhere, to expect enticement for sin everywhere. Like in school, for example, the way we dress or the certain language they use, we expect to be enticed to use it. But we have to flee from that. We cannot consent to be part of that. So that's exactly what that proverb is telling us.
Thank you, Abuna. Our next verse is from 1 Corinthians 15:33. Do not be deceived, evil company corrupts good habits.
So this is one of the very popular proverbs that good company, does it improve morals? Maybe. But bad company always deteriorates morals, always makes it worse. That's why if somebody has good morals, good values, and he's in a bad company, he's going to be the average of the other two people around him or the other three people around him. So if their morals is here, his morals are going to deteriorate to be the average of that after a while, because it's so easy to pick up those concepts and learn them and pick up at the negative things. So bad company always leads to worsening of the person, always. So that's why the church and the Bible warns us that we have to be careful with that. We have to be very picky about who we are friends with, who are we close to, because it will affect how we think and how we judge things and how we live.
And I like how you mentioned like good morals and bad habits, because our next Bible verse actually says, Proverbs 13:20, he who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. So
exactly. So it's a companionship.
Yeah,
so that's why even when we look at the church, there's so many saints that were friends. For example, if you guys know Saint Basil and Saint Gregory were friends, the great saints.
Yeah.
Basil the Great and Gregory the theologian. So there was that involvement, that companionship that built them up together. But when you make yourself in a company of people that think this is okay and this is not a sin and it's okay to skip and it's okay to do that, after a while you yourself think that way. So you learn that foolishness and make it your own. That's what that proverb is saying.
Yeah, and also, what's your, how do you find, those good friends? What should you look to find in those people to know if they're good for you or not?
That's a very good question. So So some youth don't think about the quality of the friendship. Just the fact that they're here and available and we go do things together, we're friends, and it doesn't matter what language we use, what topics we talk about, which direction they're pushing me. So there has to be that evaluation. Which direction this friendship is helping me go? Is it helping me go closer to God? Or is it helping me get away from my family, God, the principles, the values? Now I dress this way, now I think that's okay, now I'm talking to that boy, and it's okay. So we have to have that evaluation. What is that friendship is doing? If we don't really think about the friendship, what's it doing to my life, we're never going to reach that point of qualifying, okay, is this friendship good for me or not? And a lot of youth, you ask them, and straight up, tell them, hey, is that friendship helping you? They say, no, it's actually making me worse. So why are you in it? I said, because we're friends. We've been always friends. So you cannot be complacent with that. You cannot be okay with that. You have to learn that at this age, friendships will make you or break you. So you have to be very picky with your friendships.
All right, we're gonna move on to our next segment of Q&A. Abuna, for our first question, how can we determine if something is peer pressure or if it's advice?
That's a very good question. So peer pressure, the key word here is pressure.
Yeah.
There's that burden, there's that pressure I have to consent or else. Advice is free. I'm offering you something, you take it or leave it. There's no pressure. You don't feel there's consequences to it. And most advice comes from good friends. Hey, I think you should do that. I think you should go and make up with your brother. That's an advice. But peer pressure is that I feel like if I don't do that, even if there's no word spoken, if I don't do that, then something will happen. I'll be excluded. They're going to hate me. They're going to think I'm dumb. They're going to think this and that. So that's the pressure part. So I have to discern also between these two.
But it could go like both ways, right? Positive and negative for pressure. Because we could encourage people to go to this as you said, and stuff like that. So
yeah, but positive encouragement that's deliberate is good. Like telling first, hey guys, let's go to this. That's not peer pressure. That's positive encouragement.
Okay.
But peer pressure can happen without you saying a word. Let's say a group of 10 friends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they start going to tasbah. They attend until the end of tasbah. They come early. They come early on Sunday. They come to youth meeting. They do this. They do that. So the people around them in that group that are not really actively doing that, they start saying, "Hey, they're doing that. Let me do it too." So that's indirect pressure. That's in a good way helping those friends do the right thing, but it's not a pressure per se. But it's still helping them. So that's one way to see a positive peer pressure. But most of the peer pressure we're talking about is negative. It's very negative, and it leads to just assimilating and carrying ideas that we don't like.
All right, so our next question is, how does peer pressure affect our decision making?
So peer pressure affects our decision making because sometimes very sneaky, like we don't think about it. So we are exposed to all these ideas that we start thinking that this is the norm. This is what to do. So we start acting on those ideas and doing and thinking that this is what everybody does. So our decision making is so biased. So and so did it, so and so did it, so and so did it, so I might as well do it. I mean, what's wrong with that? Everybody did it. So it's a very biased decision making. That's why that verse from Proverbs, taking counsel with the wise, talking to your servants, talking to your priests, getting advice in decision making, this will guide you to always make the right decision. That way you don't slip and make a bad one.
Thank you, Bruno. We're going to move on to our next question. What are some negative and positive examples of peer pressure? I know you kind of
we touched on that already. Yeah. So positive things like meetings, that's negative. There's so much. The way we dress, the shoe that we wear, the language that we use, the music that we listen to, dating, talking to boys, talking to girls. I mean, there's so much and so common that we don't even think about. Ideas, ideologies. Do I agree with this or do I disagree with that? I should believe in that or not believe in that. And it has nothing to do with the church. So these are so common.
But I feel like, especially like nowadays in school and stuff, it's like if you do not fit in, it's like bad. It's not like good for us, But
it takes wisdom to learn when to be silent. Okay. Sometimes we don't agree with a certain concept, and when we're given the opportunity with a question, we answer, and we tell them why lovingly, with love and humility. But sometimes when we're not part of a conversation, we can stay not part of it. We don't have to say anything. And we don't have to be part of that culture. But when a question is raised, we have to answer. And we have to speak and say the truth lovingly. But sometimes our youth just volunteer things that
Okay.
they're not really part of the conversation. They don't have to be part of.
I think the teens of kind of like our society, we like kind of force ourselves to fit in. I feel like it's just like a social standard, and that also leads us to our next question: how do we resist peer pressure and fitting into those standards?
That's a very good question. So resisting peer pressure, the first thing to do is expect it. It's unavoidable. It will happen. It will happen everywhere. So be ready that it will happen and be prepared. The best thing to do to resist peer pressure is that you have to know yourself. What are your values? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? If you don't know that, then there's no point of even trying to defeat peer pressure, because you don't even know who you are. You don't even know which direction you're trying to resist. The second thing is, I recommend that you rehearse some things that you're ready to say when you're uncomfortable doing something. For example, I don't feel like doing that. It's not my thing. I don't want to do it. I'm not comfortable doing that. No, thank you. I'm busy. So I think when you rehearse these things in your head and you're ready to use them when you need to, it makes it a lot easier to avoid those situations than you're put in a spot and you don't know what to say and you end up stuck conforming, or else you face the consequences.
All right, thank you, William. How does your self-confidence play in resisting peer pressure?
That's another good question. So as we do it more, for example, the first time you're faced with peer pressure to do something wrong, and then you said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go pray, or go call my brother, go call my servant, or go call my good friends and do something else. It was the hardest. The second time this thing came around, you're doing it a lot more easier than before. And then the third time, it's even easier. The fourth time, it's even easier. So self-confidence comes with practice when you do it. Also, when you pray about it, God generates that confidence in you that you can count on Him to deliver you from that. But of course, you have to do your part. So that confidence gets built up with the more you do it. The more you do it one time after the other, you become comfortable. And that comfort makes it so easy to resist peer pressure, because you know your own identity. You don't have to fight for it.
But choosing those like good friends to help you in those like situations are very difficult. Like I know, like even in school or at church, having those people who can like rely on, they're so hard to find. So I'm just like, I guess I'm asking, like, how do you find them, especially like when they're super difficult to find?
You guys are so lucky because you're part of the Orthodox Church. And by default, the youth around you in church, no matter how you think imperfect they are,
Yeah.
they're still your safety net. They're still your security from the world. So the more you secure yourself in them, in that shield, the more you're secure. And I remember growing up, it was our church friends that kept us secure, that was stuck together. So in that, we're able to make it until we got to adulthood and we learned how to handle things. So I think your church friends are your best bet. That's really the recommendation I have for you. Even if they're imperfect, I'm not saying they're perfect.
Yeah.
They're your good friends. They're the ones that will keep you. But of course, not all church friends are going to lead you. Some church friends have ideas that, of course, you have to discern and say, no, this is wrong. I can't be doing that. But I'm just saying, generally speaking, overall, your church friends are your safety net.
But what if in like a case scenario of like you're like out in the mall, right, and like a group of friends that like you came with from the church are like not the best people? How do you like, I guess, leave them or like avoid them to?
So the first thing, when you get yourself in that situation, you don't know what's going to happen. So you have to know who you're hanging out with. If you're hanging out with people who are unpredictable, they will do anything, then you're putting yourself in a context that's not good. The second thing is, you have to learn how to plan things. So before you get there, what's our plan? What exactly are we going to do? We cannot do this. We cannot cuss. We cannot follow that. We cannot do this. We cannot do that. So if there's a plan, you're not just getting in and it's a fair game. Like whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
So all these things will help you out. But once you see something going wrong, you have to learn how to disconnect yourself. Hey guys, I need to run. I need to take care of something. I need to run the facilities or something, and then get away.
Yeah. But I know like a common excuse is that I'm forced to be here. Like I'm forced to be in this group. So
Nobody's ever forced to be in a group. We feel that way because we want to fit in. We want that group.
okay.
So whatever they do is that we want to accept, so we can be part of it. So we are deceiving ourselves by thinking we're forced to be part of anything. It's us wanting it so bad that makes us do the things that we do. So we have to also be honest with ourselves. Say it's me wanting that group is what's making me do all that.
Thank you.
Okay.
So how can we, as friends of other people, how can we influence them positively and do the right thing to help them go to the right way?
That's another very good question. So the first thing to do is just be a good Christian. Do the right thing. Pray, and don't be shy to speak about your prayer. Fast, don't be shy to speak about your fasting. Attend church, don't be shy to speak about church attendance. Do the right things. When there's something that's wrong, tell your friends in all honesty, your church friends, this is wrong. We cannot be talking to that boy. We cannot be doing that. We cannot experimenting with that. We cannot be going that route. You have to be honest. If you keep quiet, you're not being a good role model. But when you speak up in love, I'm not saying speak up as if you're giving them a lecture, speak up in love, then you're going to help your friends stay on the right track, and you're going to be a positive role model, lovingly and humbly, not because you know more, it's because you care about them. There's a difference.
But I feel like doing that would also have a very awkward connection with your friend.
But it all depends on the level of the friendship, though.
Okay.
So I'm not saying do that with all friends.
Yeah.
Do it with the ones that you have that connection with.
Okay.
And those friends will do it with the other ones that they have connection with. It's going to be a grassroots effect. But the ones close to you that you feel comfortable with, you have to speak the truth in love. Okay? But if not, at least be the role model. At least say, no, I don't do that. No, thank you. That's not something I should do. Or you be the role model, they will also be pierced in their heart by God and know the right thing eventually.
We're gonna move on to our last question of how does peer pressure change as people get older in life?
So that's another good question, because all your questions today are amazing. As we get older, peer pressure continues, but it takes a different form, a different shape. So when people get older, now they're talking about competing about colleges. That's envy, but also it's a peer pressure. I went to that, I want to do that, or he's doing that major, I want to do it, or he's driving that car, I want to drive it. Or even when they get older and have kids, they're living in a bigger house and live in a bigger house, or they have this car, I want to get this car, or they go to that school, I want to send my kids to the same school. So it continues in so many different forms. That's why if you learn how to resist it now, if you learn how to just know who you are, be yourself, and live your identity in Christ, that's going to help you so much when you get older, that these things are not going to matter. You're not going to be thinking like that. You're not going to be repeating those mistakes later in life.
So when I feel like we were put into that position where in the environment or at school or in social media, we're put into that place where it's kind of hard to get out of it and get peer pressure very easily.
That's very good, and I'm glad you brought up social media, because social media is another form of peer pressure. Peer pressure does not have to be in person. The posts, the idea shared by on social media, definitely have that effect of peer pressure in so many youth in middle school, high school, college, and beyond. So, yes, peer pressure is unavoidable. You're going to see it there. But I cannot tell you how many youth, how many good Orthodox youth were able to still present Christ in those situations. I remember a girl was ninth grade. That was 8 years ago. And then I remember in school, they were talking about dating and all that. And whenever that conversation came up, she would clearly said, I do not date. I do not have boyfriends. I will not have a boyfriend. And that's really all you have to do. You don't have to give him the Sermon on the Mount. You don't have to give him a lecture about theology. You expressing that truth and living it with reality. You're not saying that but doing something else.
Yeah.
This is enough. That's all you have to do.
But I feel like saying that puts you I don't know, saying that makes you feel like you're not fitting in, or not being, I guess.
But this goes to a more important point. Okay, who's more important? God's love and God's approval, or those people? So you have to evaluate that. Who's more important? And also sometimes you don't have to do what she did. She did what she did, and I promise you, she wasn't rejected or anything. She made her more strong.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, you can say it your own way. You can say, nah, I'm busy right now. Or I'm dealing with other things right now. That's not something for me right now. When I get into college, I'll worry about that. So you can word it your own way, but you can still express the same truth, still express the same fact. So when you're fasting, don't hide it. Don't be ashamed of your fast. When you pray, don't be ashamed to speak about prayer. When you say, I need to repent and confess, don't be ashamed of saying that, especially with your church groups. So this is really all you have to do. You don't have to do more than that.
All right. So lastly, could you share a personal experience about, you getting peer pressured back in high school or back in college, if you have one?
Oh, and there's so many, but one experience I remember actually was few years ago, 7-8 years ago, we started talking about different controversial topics that weren't talked about. And I remember having a conversation with some of the very good youth in the church that really were raised in the church about one of the controversial topics. And I realized their views do not match the Bible at all. At all. And then I started to think, guys, like, where did you get this from?
Yeah.
Like, that's all we were taught in, that's our friends in school think that, our friends in college think that, social media thinks that. We never even took a minute to think, is this biblical or not? Does the Bible agree with that or not? And these are really good youth. Like, these are the youth that like would serve in the future. So this is a very obvious example that when we let social media and peer pressure affect us, the way we think changes and we don't even know it. We're not aware of it. So that's a very common, that's another example. An eternal issue is peer pressure to speak a certain way, to listen to a certain music and have it loud in your car and do this or that.
Clothing too.
Yeah, so all these things have been always there. Always been there from generation to generation.
Yeah.
So, but you always have to know, is this me? Is this the Orthodox middle schooler or the Orthodox high schooler? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? If the answer is no, then that's your identity, then live it. Don't be somebody else. Don't try to be someone you're not. Don't try to match things that are not ours. And we say, I don't do that kind of thing. People will respect you because you are your own person. They might not be happy about it the first time, but the more you stick to it, the more you're going to realize, oh, this guy has a character. This guy is not just a follower. So it will pay off also in the future.
I think also, Abuna, some people are just so scared, and so they struggle to say no because they're so scared of losing their friends, and like these are the only friends that they have, and so they're just so scared of losing them.
And I do sympathize with that, but the problem is, how is that a friendship? If me saying no will cause the friendship to end. So that's not a friendship, right? This is like, I'm literally being forced to either submit, or if I don't submit, I'm out. So how does that work? Either follow or out. So that's not a friendship. Friendship is mutual, it's loving, it's building me up. So this is not the friendship you want. You should not be part in a friendship that you feel that way. If you feel that you're always pressured to do things in a friendship, that's not a friendship, that's not godly. And I advise you to start looking for better friendships that build you up, that's unconditional, that has that love of Christ in it, that really they care about you. They want you to be like as good as you can be.
So speaking about friends, I feel like this is a very important topic. How do you get rid of bad friends that you currently have, and they were even childhood friends? Like, how do you just like separate from them?
I think if these are church friends and Orthodox and you grew up with them, I would definitely not use the word cut or remove. I would use the word more like, let's reorient. Okay. Reorient your distance.
Yeah.
But the thing to do is, if you know for sure a friend's not good for you, and this friend is a Christian, you cannot leave him. I mean, we still have to tell your servants to look after them. Yeah. But from your own personal needs, if you feel like this is going to make you worse or is pulling you away from God, then you have to distance yourself. You don't cut ties, but distance yourself. So you don't hang out as often, you don't talk as often, you don't do the things that would affect you and influence you. So, and you have to be careful, because if any friendship, even if it's like a church friend, leading you away from God, you have to end it. You cannot be part of it.
I remember my servant said, set boundaries, but I feel like it's kind of hard to set those boundaries when your childhood friends, you've grown up together, parents are always hanging out together, so just...
But you can limit the conversations that you talk about, you can limit the topics, you can limit the amount of time. I'm not saying cut.
Yeah.
But you can reorient the relationship so it's easier. Like, for example, we can talk about the football game, or we can talk about, applying to college or something. Stuff that has no consequences and anything. And you can limit that amount. You cannot have personal, deep, meaningful conversation that their ideas will be your ideas soon. So you have to limit those kind of conversations. Okay?
Thank you so much, Abuna, for joining us today. And stay tuned for any updates on all our socials. And thank you so much for listening.
Okay, thank you, guys.